Hello, and welcome to another edition of EntreMusician podcast. My name is Nenad C, and I'm EntreMusician, and as you already know, so are you. And so is my guest and dear friend today, amazing lady that you will hear life story and everything she did and how she cope with what's going on in the industry at the moment. She's Finland-based, but from US origins, and that's another thing that we should discuss about how it is moving from the States to Europe. How does it look? And she's an amazing songwriter. She writes songs for children. She writes gospel songs. And unlike most of the musicians, she knows how to write and read score sheets, because most of the musicians now are quite musically illiterate, and she is quite an exception in that moment. So, dear friends, here is Ladena Laine. Ladena, how are you?
Hi, how you doing?
Did you like the introduction?
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, first comes first. It's usually considered as normal for people from around the world to come to the United States. And how did it happen that you from the States came to Europe and came to Finland?
When I was in high school, I met an exchange student that lived with a family that went to our church. And we became very good friends, and I visited her. And then my parents, after I graduated from university, my parents moved out of the state where we were living, and I decided, well, I'm going to move too. So I moved to Finland.
So is it for people in the States, Finland is quite north part of Europe? Is it spring coming already, or you still have snow?
There's a few hills of snow here and there, but most of it's melted away.
Oh yeah, so it's spring is galloping towards our way, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, your life story is, quite an impressive one. So you moved to Finland in like beginning of the 90s, like that,
Yes.
and you started studying in Finland.
I got my bachelor's degree in chemistry in University of South Florida. And then when I decided to move to Finland, I decided the easiest way would be to become a student and get my master's degree in analytical chemistry.
So how did you move from chemistry to music?
Well, music has always been a part of my life. I mean, my mom had an auto harp, which is, if you know, it's a harp that has buttons for the chords, and you push the button. And so I would write little songs on that when I was a child, and always be singing to myself.
Yes, but you just decide to make that a career from your early days.
Well, I always wanted to impact the world somehow, and I thought that, well, you can do that as a scientist.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason, and math and science were always easy. So that's the reason I went into sciences, because I mean, you think you can make a career out of science, it's harder to make a career out of music.
Well, is it is it harder being a chemist genius or a music genius?
Well, I'm not a chemist genius. I just right now here on the island, they don't have many opportunities for chemists, so I'm working as a laboratory technician.
Oh yeah. So and how many years did it take until you decided, music is something that I always wanted to do in my life and really started doing it?
Well, when I moved to Helsinki, then I was in I guess you could call it the international church, and we were a bunch of college students that hung out together, and some of them were musicians. So I started turning my songs, finding people that could turn my songs into actual audio songs.
Yeah. So let me ask you something. I said it in the beginning. Most of the musicians nowadays are just, using DAWs and don't know how to read or write music. You're literally the exception so how did you decide not to, just buy a computer, buy DAW and start, putting music inside your DAW, but writing sheet music, writing notes and writing music so that other people can play it that way? What made you turn into that direction instead of just, the easier one? Like, I have a computer, I have a DAW, I take a few samples and ta-da, there's my music. No, you're just doing it the original way, the way it was done like for 500 years, your pencil and score sheet, and then you're writing notes. What was the background of that decision?
And everybody can, if you can read music, anybody can play it. So, and if you do an audio file, then other people really can't play it and make it their own. Because I think music, even though it's nice to listen to, music should be made yours. And with sheet music, you can look at it, you can play it like that, but you can also do improv in it and make it your own. And when I sing songs, I do trills where there aren't written trills and stuff, so that it's mine then. That's why I think there's so many cover songs, because people like a song, but they also want to put themselves into it.
Yeah, so you're basically opening up opening up a door for various interpretations of the music if you write it down. Is that?
Yeah, I think so.
So Ladena, when you're doing your score sheets, is there any way of collaborating with other composers, other musicians, other artists, or you do it all on your own? Or just put me through that process so I and other people who are watching this would know how all the things are going.
Well, I can just write basic chords and basic sheet music. And since I've only had 1 year of study, and then I was in piano lessons as a child, but so I'm kind of dependent on, for the children's songs, I can do it pretty good myself, because that usually you just use basic chords. But for the gospel, you want the sus chords, and you want the augmented and the +9, and so then I need to depend on people that have master's degrees in music. And so I write mine the best I can, suggest a few basic chords, and I give it to them. And then they look at it and they make changes sometimes, or add things that I hadn't thought about. And then they send it back and say, how do you like this? And I usually just say, that's fantastic, thank you, and then publish it.
So there is a back and forth communication, and adding things, and improving the song music.
Yeah, and then I just recently worked with a guy that I met on the internet through a Facebook group, and in Canada, and he did the song, and then I said, well, I want it in Swedish too. So there was a lot of back and forth on that, of him to get, since he couldn't speak Swedish, and then have I written the Swedish in the right format and spelled everything right? So we had like 4 versions going back and forth. And then when we started singing it in my choir, because we're going to sing that song for the bishop when he comes visiting the islands in the fall, and there was a Swedish teacher, and she goes, well, this is like not proper Swedish. This is spoke Swedish. So then I had to send it back. I said, well, we got a C, now we gotta change it so we can get that A.
Well, yeah, the language issues, and the language issues are really huge with music, because each language has its own melody.
Yes.
So it's not easy just okay, just change the words. No, because there's stress on the words. There are different vowels. There are different way to pronounce all those words. So basically, language issues for those who are only thinking in English, language issues are really huge in writing music.
Well, you can't just translate something, because then all the rhythm and melody is totally different. You have to figure out a way to say the same thing, but in a way that keeps the rhythm and keeps the melody.
Yeah. I mean, I'm constantly had that problem, before, because I was, like writing song in Serbian, and then people would have said, okay, why don't you do it in English? I can't do it in English to make it sound the same. I'd rather make a new song in English than trying to figure out how to just have the same meaning with words, and as you said, keep the melody and keep the rhythm and keep the beats and everything in totally different language.
Yeah, and it's hard. Some songs you can't translate, and some songs you can. I've only have well, I have several kids songs that I've translated, but the Christian songs I only have, out of the 30, 40 I have, only like 3 of them are translated.
Yeah. And how about that, the church music that you make? How did you came to that?
When bought I was between jobs, and I decided to go to a 1-year music school. So then it was actually a Christian school, and Christianity. I mean, I was raised in the church, so the Christian music has always been a part of my life too.
Yeah, is there a market for Christian music in the Finland, or you're mainly aiming towards the US?
Well, there is a market, because I mean, Sweden has a big, huge gospel mass choir thing every year. So here in Europe, I mean, they like gospel music. And I mean, here on the island, we also have a gospel choir. So, but most of my stuff gets played in the UK or the US.
And you get in contact with them through the platforms that you've mentioned.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, the other thing that's also, at least for me, is interesting is how you get your royalties, considering that your music is not recorded, your music is not on any streaming service, your music cannot be bought in a final audio uh, um, shape, just the score sheet. How do you monetize that?
But like I said, the CCLI, if a church uses a piece of music, then they have to turn it in, say that they've used the music from this artist. And it took a long time, because I first started registering my music in 2001, and like the US, they don't pay out until it gets to $100, and the UK doesn't pay out until it gets to £50. It took 7 years before I got my first royalty check from them. And then I think another 5 years. And then I think another 5 or 6 years. But so now they pay out twice a year. So now I get at least one of those I will make from either the United States or the UK. But they're playing, or they're using my songs in South Africa and other places too. But it really feels good, is like when I put a song up, the periods are from March until September, and then from October until March. And it's fun when you post a song in February and it's on the summer payout list, because then you feel like there are people out there looking for Ladena Laine songs and that she just put out.
You only get paid, you're not getting paid for each performance, just for the first time that they bought the score sheet, that they buy the score sheet.
Well, whenever, like I said, however many times they use it, I don't know who's using it or where, but I get a list of these songs, and they used just the words, or they used the whole score, or if there are audio files, they used the audio files.
And yeah, so sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. So please finish it.
Oh, but that's what it is. You know what they're using, and you know which songs they're using. One time I had one song that was used like in 6-month period, it was used like 50 times.
And how's the feeling that, you find out, as you said, playing in South Africa, playing in, I don't know, California, playing in Sweden? What's the feel when you get the check and say, wow, look the parts of the world.
You don't even get the check is just a nice thing, but when it's because I haven't gotten anything from South Africa, but just knowing that they're using my songs in South Africa, that's the big thing. Or wow, there's Asia. I haven't gotten any money from Asia, but wow, this song and this song and this song has been used in Asia. So it's the money isn't what is exciting. It's looking where and which songs, because each song you wrote it, or I wrote it, based on an emotion I was going through at that time. So it's a connection with I'm connecting with Asians, I'm connecting with South Africans, I'm connecting with. So the money is nice, but it's not the most important thing.
Yeah, I can imagine that, because I do get that from streamings, like people from Chile listen to myself. Wow, how did I get there? I mean, coming from Serbia, and then somebody play on my song, and he lives in Chile, like, I don't know, half a world around. So I can relate to that. And so did you and did you did have an album recorded also? So it's not only score sheet. You do have your recordings. You do have your own album of your music, right?
I have one album that was done in 2001.
And it was Christian gospel music, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And also, what is very interesting to me, how do you manage to, there are two sides of what you do. One is Christian gospel music, and the other thing is songs for children. So not very similar things, like, yeah, I'm playing soul and a bit of R&B. No, I mean, literally, I'm making gospel music and I'm making music for children. So how do you balance those two things?
It just what comes. I have my twins are almost 19, so when they were small, I would make up little songs for them. I have a lullaby that I sang to them when I would put them to bed. So I think the children's songs were inspired when they were small by them, and now it's just continues. And I used to go into schools and sing with kids. And then I also had a Saturday sing-along group that I would do with some like 10 kids, and we would sing my songs and also songs that were more popular.
So you told me you started with your kids and then you just get hooked on you, but how do you do it nowadays? Are there festivals? Are there for children's songs? Is there a market for new children's songs? Because people used to are still used to sing, like lullabies from 100 years ago. How do they get to know and to listen and to sing new music that's produced for children?
There are, if you animate them, then there are all sorts of YouTube channels that have animated videos of new and old songs. And so that's kind of, I got into that by accident. I made a video of one of my songs and I sent it to the streaming service here in Finland, Yle Arena, and the producer for the Swedish speaking, Finland has two languages, Finnish and Swedish. So the producer for at Yle for the Swedish speaking part said, "Do you have more?"
Well, that's a great sentence. Somebody's listened to your song and do you have more of these? Well,
yeah, and then he said it'd have to be in Swedish, and I'd like kids singing on it. And I said, okay. And so I talked to the guy that had done the animation for the first one, and he was excited because he had been basically doing local cartoons for local businesses and stuff. But so this was his major break also.
Yeah. And at the moment, and any plans for releasing an album or whatever with children's songs only?
I'd love to. It's just since I don't play and I don't have a recording studio myself and don't know how to do that. So basically it's a financing issue.
Yeah, but at least in like comparing to what we have in Serbia, like there is a cultural center for children. Is there something like that, like like national institution or local institution in Finland that could back up that kind of project, new songs for kids and so on? So that will be some sort of government sponsored project or something like that.
I haven't found one yet, and things work a little bit different. On the island, we self-govern, so we're kind of like a separate. We're part of Finland, but we're not.
Like Puerto Rico, something like that.
Yes, exactly. So it's on the island, there's not anything really like that. I mean, I have gotten grants and stuff, but not enough to to rent a studio for an album.
Yeah.
When my first album, I financed most of it myself.
Yeah, like we all do, basically.
Yeah. And then
that's what being EntreMusician means, So we have to take our business, our music business into our own hands. And speaking of that, how difficult is, this really, we're living in 21st century. This really shouldn't be an issue anymore. But is it more difficult for a woman to be a part of, that business kind of world that music is? Do you find it more difficult than if, when you see some of a male colleagues of you?
I'm not. I really can't answer that question since I haven't really. I only had 1 year of study, and then after I made that first album, we kind of had life hit us. So that's the reason I'm just trying to get back into it real fully now. The rest of it was, I think a lot of the reason I did the sheet music too was because that was for me, that was the cheaper way for me to do it, because of all the stuff going on in our lives, we couldn't afford anything else. But the music was still in me and I had to get it out of me.
So what are your current plans with your music? You became a member of EntreMusician International. What are your plans for the future? First of all, let me tell you, how do you feel being an EntreMusician?
I've found a lot of support with you guys. I'm not really, I mean, my husband gives me support, but he really can't give direction. And I think my family in America, they've always thought that it's a cute little hobby that you have there. But otherwise they haven't really, and they can't either support it and give direction. So that's what I'm getting out of the EntreMusician is direction.
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea behind the community. None of us know everything, but all of us know something, and that gathered knowledge that is shared and spread around the community helps us all. It's for the benefit of our soul. So, I was really thrilled when Jerry told me that we're coming international, that we're coming, because at that time I was the only one who was not from America. I mean, there are two of them, Thomas and Anna, who are from Canada, but basically it's the same thing. And I was I was the only one coming from another continent, and hearing from Jerry that you're coming and there will be more people coming to international, I was really thrilled, because that's the way to spread the community. Now, having all of this in mind, what are your current plans for this year, for 2024, and for at least another 5 years, music wise?
Well, right now this is it's keep doing what I'm doing with the sheet music. As a song comes, I'll keep writing it down and publishing it. But I'm also trying to build a network. I went last fall, I went to Tile Yard, which is one of the biggest music schools and music industries sector in the UK. And then this summer I'm going to go work with one of the girls that I met there, and where she's working on her album. So we're gonna go to the studio and see if we can write some songs that maybe she'll put on her album. And then also I thought that songwriters camp was more for club music and the younger crowd. So I wanted to find another songwriting camp with a little bit more, a different style, and possibly a little bit of older crowd. I mean, it was fun working with the 25-year-olds, but it just wasn't my style.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. So, and is there anything similar to that? Some another community or program or whatever for so-called senior musicians that you found out that you would like to share?
Well, I don't know that that's what it's going to be, but I just figured a songwriters camp in Tennessee would wear gospel and country music, which an older crowd usually tend to navigate to. Then maybe I'm hoping that there'll be a little bit older people there.
And the collaboration that you're going to have, that's with US artists, right?
A Canadian artist.
Oh, a Canadian artist. So it's going to be this summer?
Yeah, in July, I'm gonna go first to visit my family, which I haven't seen for a couple of years, and then to visit her for a couple of days, and then to the songwriter camp, and then home.
Well, that's going to be a fun summer for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ladena, thank you. Is there anything more that you would like to say to the crowd that's going to watch this podcast, and that you wanted me to ask you, but I didn't?
Well, I kind of said that there was a lot of stuff that went on, and most of it was health. So I mean, I have a chromology, which is a tumor on my pituitary gland. So I want to tell people that just because you're going through hard times doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. And you can always pick up something as long as you continue with something, you can focus more on it later if that's really what you want to focus on. So you just don't quit just because you're going through hard times.
Yeah, thank you, Ladena, for this. We all get times, when we think that, life got over us, but, going through that, and thank you for sharing this really personal thing and going through something like that you went through in your life, and now still living your life to the full. I mean, that's an inspiration for a lot of people, because a lot of people have a lot of issues in their lives and don't know how to cope with them. So, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
This was another edition of EntreMusician podcasts, with this time with amazing artists and amazing person, and my friend Ladena Laine, US origin, Finland-based composer, songwriter, gospel and children's music. And I hope you liked it, and I hope that you've learned a lot of things as I have during this interview. And don't forget, my name is Nenad C. I'm an EntreMusician, so is Ladena Laine, and so are you. Until next time.